And so you got to switch the paradigm on them enough that they go, "Ooh, I've not heard it put it this way before. This is something new. There's a new possibility here." And they lean in and want to know more.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 362. And today I've got a special guest joining us, and he's got this unique method for onboarding a ton of new clients in the next 30 days. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It is your host, Melanie Benson, authority amplifier and possibility igniter. And today, we're literally staring down the end of 2023 as this episode airs. We've got just short of 8 weeks left in this 2023 year. And I want to just paint a picture for you. I want you to think about how you're showing up in your business. How are you focusing your time? What are you putting into action that moves not just the revenue needle, but your ability to impact the lives of ideal clients? Now, I talk to two types of people on a regular basis, especially people who are applying for my 100K Authority Accelerator. And one type of person, they're interested in optimizing what they have because they want to accelerate their path to making a greater impact. They're looking for the micro adjustments that can produce massive results by sweetening their effort, doing less more effectively. And I love those kind of clients because they're action takers, they're resourceful, as we were talking about in a couple episodes ago, that state of resourcefulness. They know that there are little things they can do that make a huge impact. And that is such a powerful way for you to look at the next, not just the next 2 months, but what do you want to be different as you're entering into 2024? When we focus on micro adjustments, minute changes that make a huge impact in results, this is where the efforting gets exchanged for flow state, right? Because you know, okay, I'm doing something that moves the needle. Even if it gets a little arduous at times, you know, you have what it takes to really attract clients and make a greater difference in their world. Now, the other kind of client I talk to is someone who has been doing a lot of efforting, and they feel a little conflicted. They're feeling confused. They feel like everything's very messy. They're dealing with a lot of maybe even anxiety and doubt about whether or not they can do what it takes. They know they are so passionate and they have such a great gift, but putting all the puzzle pieces together has been really a challenge. And where I find this type of client has an opportunity is to really look at their actions and say, am I willing to take a leap of faith? Am I willing to maybe invest in some support and resources and clarity so that I can stop spinning around on these same set of points that make me confused and get my messaging clear and get my offer optimized and get little refinements in my overall process so that I am able to close more clients quickly. As a matter of fact, I just heard from a client who was in that state not too long ago, and she applied one small thing we worked on for her offer in our first 30 minutes together, and she emailed me 24 hours later and said, yeah, I enrolled somebody in that package, and it was almost $1,000 package. So little tweaks, little refinements can swing doors wide open that lead you to more revenue, to more stable revenue, I should say, more growth, more impact, and to really have a business that's making its mark on this world as you being a recognized expert. If that's sounding good to you, I want to talk to you. Let's book a chat, reach out, book a fast track call, download my $1 million visibility stream framework. Do whatever we need to do so that you can make the next 2 months and the next year the most powerful, the most impactful you ever have. Like, Oftentimes, if you haven't solved this problem already, you're probably not going to solve it on your own. So find a mentor that you align with, whether it's one of my guests here or it's me, whatever, I don't care. I'd love to work with you, but I want you to have the right mentor at the right time for you. And if you'd like to talk, let's do it. I will link up my fast track session in the show notes, as well as my $1,000,000 framework that you can download as my gift to you right now. But do something that's going to move the needle. All right, now this guest is going to blow your mind. He's amazing. Let's not wait one more minute. Let's get right into today's episode. Well, welcome back, Amplifiers. I am so excited for today's guest. We're going to talk about something that's going to help anyone who is trying to attract more of their ideal clients. And my guest today is Jason Van Orden. Now, Jason helps consultants, coaches, and authors turn their expertise into profitable online courses and group programs that help more people and generate more income. Jason draws from more than 18 years of experience, including creating multiple successful brands, launching over 60 online courses, teaching over 10,000 entrepreneurs, earning 7 figures in online course sales, and generating 8 million downloads of his podcasts. Super impressive. His mission is to help visionaries with impactful ideas to connect with the people they serve best and the problems they can most uniquely solve. Jason, I'm so glad to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, it's so nice to be here, Melanie. Thank you.
Yeah. And so Jason and I have been getting to know each other. He hosts one of the most extraordinary networking events. I hope it's okay if I bring that up.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
I just love the how you connect people and how you show up as a leader in our space. And I think one of the things that you've got is like a really awesome LinkedIn game. Like I look at what you do there and
Mm.
it's like, oh yeah, that's the bomb. I like it.
Oh,
So
that's nice. Thank you. That's good feedback. Thank you. I
yeah, you
appreciate
have a
that.
unique way of like connecting people and supporting people through what you do on LinkedIn, which is really admirable. So we'll make sure we're hooking up your LinkedIn profile on the show notes so people can go check you out. And I watch you get a flood of LinkedIn people after this.
Amazing. I'm not complaining.
No, it's all good. But you and I are talking in the green room as we're just prepping to go into the interview today, and we're talking about like the questions we get from our clients and potential clients, and they come in through our community, and I think we both agree that there's a big conversation right now in the coaching industry in particular about like, hey, my offer's not converting, I'm not attracting clients. It's kind of like what would we say? It's like uh, the sales have stalled, right? It's just kind of like tumbleweeds. And it's like the ghost town, I guess is what I was thinking of. How would somebody who's in the space, because they throw darts at the wall, like, okay, is it my messaging? Is it my offer? Is it my brand? I don't have a big enough email list? Like, there's a lot of things it could be.
Mhm.
How does somebody really start to identify, like, what is the core problem that we need to focus on solving?
Yeah, it can be really challenging, but one of the things that helps is knowing, first of all, knowing you need to zoom all the way out, and then the problem likely falls into one of three areas, one of which we're going to talk about today. One is the messaging, excuse me, that something's off in the messaging and that it's not gaining the attention of the right people, or there's a disconnect and the right people see it and then they don't realize, no, this is the thing I've been waiting for and I need to lean in and listen more. Another common thing that might be the problem is that there are a lot of coaches and consultants, course creators, experts out there that don't have a really good customer journey. And by that, I don't mean just like a nurture sequence of emails, but a very strategic set of touch points that gain the attention of the right person and then start bringing them down the garden path up to the point of buying with you. And the thing to realize is not everybody's going to be ready right away. And sometimes we get very focused because we want sales and cash and like, hey, I got to get visibility, I got to get leads, I got to get visibility, I got to get leads. And we're just trying to get those couple percent of people that are ready to jump on a call and hopefully do business with us. And then all these other people that might have otherwise been great clients had we just kept them around a little longer and had a little more of a complete customer journey with the right invites for them, would have eventually been great clients too. So we're just like losing them as opposed to keeping them in our orbit, which is why I've created something called the gravity method to keep people in your orbit and identify the right ones at the right time and then move them towards that sale. So we've got messaging, we've got that customer journey or sales piece, and that in that it includes a good sales process that feels values aligned. Because if you feel an aversion to doing sales, you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard either to do the things to get people on the calls with you, or to write the emails to promote, or to close the deal when you found the right person who clearly you can help. So messaging, customer journey, and sales process. And then the third one is to look at the offer. And one of the biggest mistakes I see there is that the offer is not focused enough on the outcomes that it produces. Or maybe it isn't the way that you deliver it, but if people don't realize it's okay, this is tied to these outcomes that I want to achieve, like they're not paying for information, they're not paying for your expertise, they're not paying for quote unquote value. What they want is they want to pay for something that's going to get them to a better future. And so we need to be very specific about identifying those outcomes that are top of mind for the people that we want to serve most. So that's one of the third areas that I look at with people. So it's messaging, customer journey and sales, or optimizing the offer to focus on the right outcomes.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the sales piece, because I know a lot of our more impact-driven community members, selling sometimes feels awkward, like they haven't
Yeah,
really figured that out. And you're
yeah,
right, like you have to be all in. And I think those three things that you just talked about, when you get those pieces really clear and they feel congruent, it is easier to hold that enrollment conversation and have a values aligned sales conversation. So it's a really
yeah.
great piece that you brought through there. You know, one of the things I've heard you talk about, and really is the theme of our conversation today, is what you call your 3R method, which I know really unpacks one of those three issues. You deal with a lot of threes, don't you?
Threes it's a good magic number.
I was gonna say it's a
Breathing
good
into
marketing
threes,
number.
easy to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you have a 3R method that really helps you and the clients that you teach us to enroll more of your ideal clients. Like, unpack that for me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, this can help with all three of the things we just talked about, because the 3R method can be applied to messaging, it can be applied to the sales process and customer journey, and it can be applied to your offer as well. So here are the 3Rs, and then we can talk about why they're important and drill into them some more. But the first one is relevance. So that's making sure that you are addressing a need or challenge of your ideal client that's top of mind. They are aware of it, and that when they see it, they're either actively looking for help with that right now, or the moment that they bump into something that that could help them with something that's in the back of their mind, and it gets their attention, be like, yep, you know what, I've actually been meaning to do something about that. And so often we start talking about our solution too soon, or, as the expert, we're a little too disconnected from what it's like to be in their position. And so the messaging doesn't quite land, and they don't realize that what you're offering is relevant to their desired future, their current pains, problems, challenges that they're running into. So that's the first one, is relevance. The second one is remarkability. And this one's important because there are so many coaches and consultants and experts out there now. I mean, in the last few years, it's really, really proliferated. And it can be tough to stand out. It can be tough for someone to say, hey, actually, you're the one I need to work with over any other option available to me. And any other option includes doing nothing. Like, it needs to be something that's going to bring them forward, away from past failures and past, unfulfilled promises that have frustrated them. And so you got to switch the paradigm on them enough that they go, "Oh, I've not heard it put it this way before. This is something new. There's a new possibility here," and they lean in and want to know more. So that's remarkability. And then the third one is resonance, and that's about presenting these things in a way that align with the values of your intended audience. And that might seem really obvious, but like, nobody's going to do business with you unless trust is in place. And trust, research has showed us, consists of both credibility, which we all know, and we try to put that credibility and authority out there up front, like, I know what I'm doing, I can totally get you to where you want to go, and likability or warmth, which means they connect with who you are. There's something about how you make them feel and how, make them think, that there's little clues of shared meaning. It's like, oh, you know what, you're a parent. Just, it could be something as simple as that. You're a parent just like me, or you're a Game of Thrones fan like me, or what. Like, but this is what we do as humans: is we look at these little clues you're like me, you're my kind of person, to go, can I trust you? Not only are you capable of bringing about my interests, but can I trust you to bring about my interests as well? So that's where resonance comes in, is earning that trust, and helps you stand out as well, because you have a unique perspective, set of values, strengths, and background. So relevance, remarkability, and resonance.
Hmm. I love those 3 R's. Those are so powerful. And I'm glad you recapped them. In my mind, I'm visualizing a triangle, right? And it's
Yeah.
like they really all need to be in balance to be the person your ideal clients are going to turn to.
Yeah.
I was curious as you were talking through, because we understand theoretically that we need to have these pieces, and I know a lot of people, like, in practice get this, but, like, I'd love to hear an example of how you help somebody integrate this so that it started to generate sales from them, especially if they'd been stalled before.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. So there's one client that comes to mind. I like this example because it's not just another business example. I mean, I love business and B2B clients too, work with them all the time. But sometimes it's refreshing to hear somebody that's not, in business, and an example outside of that. So this client, her name's Alexandra, comes from a background of she was a modern dancer for, international modern dance for many years, then became a choreographer with her own company, and then started teaching classes in choreography and performance, and now teaches a methodology. One of the specific things that she teaches is this thing called effort theory, which is for performers and directors and choreographers. And not that many people have heard of effort theory. Like, they're not waking up in the morning going, you know what, if I only knew more about effort theory, my life would be better. So we had a challenge to, like, how do we make this relevant? How do we make it resonant? How do we make it remarkable? And so we went out and I had her do some customer interviews, customer discovery interviews. And, I gave her a set of questions to ask to really unearth what was going on for them, so that we could connect it with what was top of mind. So what she ended up hearing from a lot of actors, directors, was from the actors, she'd hear a lot of, I want to broaden the range of what I can embody on stage. I want to, feel more comfortable in giving powerful performances, but I don't want to have to, like, a lot of the stuff I've been taught for doing that requires me to, like, dredge up my own, like, feelings and past and things in order to try to convey that emotion. And it gets exhausting to do that, on the stage, in rehearsals, and then in performances night after night. So is there another way to do that? Directors were expressing a frustration in having a common vocabulary for them to be able to explain what they would like to have out of the actor in terms of that character. And so we're like, great, now we have the relevant presenting problem for the acting and the actors and the directors. And what effort theory does is it gives them a vocabulary of how to express themselves in these different ways, to embody different emotions and characters. So it gives the directors the common vocabulary with the actors, and it gives the actors this way to broaden their ability to embody different emotions and characters and things on stage. For instance, she worked with somebody it was a one-man show, and he had 18 different characters from different ages to genders and everything that he had to convey. And she used effort theory and it actually just went through a really successful run in Chicago. And it was all effort theory that allowed him to convey all these characters powerfully on stage and get the wonderful reviews that he did. So we knew how to make it relevant. In terms of remarkability, we wanted to come out and say, like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if there's another way? Like, here are the things you probably have tried, you're frustrated with, they're not quite working, you're feeling stuck. Here's this new, what if you had this other, this other way of going about it, if you had this new vocabulary to work with. And in her case, it was this thing that not a lot of people are teaching. Now, it doesn't have to be something nobody else teaches in order for it to be a remarkable piece of messaging or offer, but you need to know that thing that's going to give people new hope or a new perspective or paradigm to latch onto and go, okay, I can let go of past shame and failure and frustrations and unfulfilled promises from other people who've sold to me, and lean in and go, I'm going to give this a go, at least listen further and see what it's about. And then in resonance, she went from writing these promo emails, like, marketing just frustrated her, and she'd be like, okay, I have a class on this thing. And I just like, hey, everyone, doing another class, here's the information if you want to sign up, just feeling like, well, I guess that's how you promote. And I got her drawing up, like, personal experiences and client stories, and sharing her philosophy about the world and art and performing. And she started getting people emailing her back and going like, these are amazing. Like or she'd run into people at parties and like, I read every single one of your emails. And whether or not people signed up for the course, they were thanking her for the emails she was sending, because we were hitting that resonance of, again, the values that really landed. And people were like, yeah, you're the person I've been waiting to help me with these things. So that's how we nailed relevance, resonance, and remarkability. So then she went to regularly filling courses, knowing how to promote in a way that felt really good to her, and that was grabbing the attention and drawing in the people she really wanted to work with most.
That is such an inspiring story. And, I think one of the big wins in that scenario, besides the fact that she was selling courses, was you got people reading emails. And we all know how valuable that is with the way email marketing is today. Getting people to open an email and want that next email to come is a gem, because they may not buy now, but they will buy someday.
Yeah,
And opening the email is one of the ways to make sure that happens.
absolutely.
You mentioned the remarkability factor and really figuring out what's remarkable. And this may surprise you, but maybe you get this as well. I have a lot of people who've been in business a while who say, how do I know? Like, I call it something else, but like they say, like, how do I know what this is for me? And I'm really curious your take on that, and like how, if someone feels like that's a blind spot for them, or maybe it's kind of they just haven't looked at it that way lately, and they've forgotten what their genius is. Like, how do they find that for themselves?
Yeah, so great question. So, okay, so remarkability factor, and just to encapsulate this again, this is important because your market, when they've come across your message, really what they only have so much energy to dedicate stuff in their day. And if they can very quickly just box you into like, oh, yeah, seen that, done that before, trying to overcome my anxiety, got to exercise and meditate. Yeah, I've been there, done that, seen that, right? And then they just move on. Or, they're like really resistant to trust because they've tried other things, other experts, and they're like, my trust is really, so unfulfilled promises and false starts. They either got their own like shame of maybe something's wrong with me and I can't do it. Doesn't matter how smart you are. Like I've tried stuff before. So this is what you have to overcome. This is one of the inertial things pulling them away from doing business with you, as opposed to, your 3R messaging is what's going to pull them towards. So how do you find your remarkability factor so you don't get quickly dismissed? Well, you need to do 5 things here, and then I'm going to give some questions people can ask. You need to think about, okay, well, how can I interrupt the conventional wisdom? So let me go. I'll give another example of a client that I worked with who did something called somatics. I happen to attract, I guess, people in movement space, because then I worked with Alexandra and these other people in movement space started showing up. Somatics. So this is like, body movement and stuff. In her case, she was working with people overcoming trauma and better issue, particularly women, have so much like junk coming at them from society about their relationships with their body. And she's like, look, I'm going to change your paradigm. That now, so they've been battered by the claims from the diet industry and the medical industry and societal, crap that just like, and so she came out and she's like, well, what if there was, a different way to think about your body and overcome anxiety that's not just these other things that we've all go to therapy, or and not, there's nothing wrong with like go to therapy or what these other things that you might do. But she's like, do you feel like there's something missing in here as well? So can you interrupt the conventional wisdom? Can you explain or reframe the problem differently? She said, if you want a better relationship with your body, it needs to be a solution that involves your body, which is what somatics does. You want to absolve them of past failure, the things they've tried over and over again. They've been ground into down, and they're like, they need to have like, look, it's not your fault. There's this missing piece, and because of all this other stuff out there that's been muddying the waters, you just didn't have this piece, and now I'm here to give you the piece. And in her case, it was somatics, right? So you want to offer new hope, new possibility. And as a bonus, if you can solve a common objection and get that out of the way at the same point, it's like, yeah, I know you're probably worried about, just another meditation or mindfulness practice or whatever. It's like, no, this is something different. So how do you know what that is for you? Well, some questions you can ask yourself is, certainly knowing what your audience has tried, other things they've tried, and what they're just fed up of hearing, or what you're fed up of being the conventional wisdom. So like, what makes you angry in your industry? What are you like, you know what, I want people to stop saying this because it's not serving people well. Or here is a belief that I have that I want to see become more standard practice, more of the normalized conversation in my industry. So is there something that makes you upset in your industry? Is there some way that your methodology, like what is the missing piece? So for some people, it might be maybe you have some interesting research or something that's like, look, this is what we know now, and it hasn't gotten out there into the mainstream, but I'm here to help you with this new, emerging stuff that's coming through. It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be like this brand new research or stuff. It can also be something as easy as, when I'm helping people with messaging and I say, look, if you are a coach who has empathy and asks good questions and genuinely is curious and likes to help people, there's no reason why sales can't feel good to you. There's so much of this conventional wisdom out there about sales that we bristle at and that feels gross. Let me show you a way that doesn't require you to sell in, that's not in alignment with your values. So like, that's something that's pretty simple. And it's not that I'm like the only person out there saying that, but it's different enough that they've probably bumped into a lot of other things. Now they're going like, okay, wait, there's a different way that Jason's talking about this that I haven't heard before. And then, just think about, are there, beliefs, practices, conventional wisdom you want changed? Or ask yourself, what are some of the myths, misconceptions, or bad assumptions that your intended market have, and that's holding them back. And you're like, I need to help them. I need to reframe that. They're looking at the problem this way. They've misdiagnosed the problem. They've been sold this bill of goods. And if I go like, no, it's actually not that at all. It's this over here. These are the things, like any of those can be an avenue in or a hook of your remarkability. So you can come forward and say, this is a different way to think about it. Here's a new possibility, a new hope. We're missing this piece, and I'm here to give it to you now.
I love that. That's so clear and makes a way into finding your own remarkable aspects a little bit easier to find. So thank you. That's really interesting. I want to squeeze in something because I know we're starting to see time shrink very quickly on us, but
Right.
I know that people are going to hear this, they're going to see this, these remarkability factors and these questions, and yeah, it's still probably not going to work for them. So maybe there's some blind spots or there's some mistakes that people are commonly making around this. That do you want to highlight anything there?
Yeah, one thing I want to say is if anybody's listening to this and like, hey, that makes sense, but I really don't know what it is for me.
Mm.
It's not, I've thrown out a few questions. This is the kind of thing you want to ponder a bit over time. And it can be really hard for us because we're so close to it. We know things well. We assume other people don't, or know what we know. We forget how little sometimes the people that we want to help actually know about the thing that we do. So there's absolutely something in there. So don't discount out of hand what we're saying here. Give yourself the time to dive into it. And we talk about here at the end a tool I have that people can use to dig into all three of these R's more. But one of the best things you can do is, just like with Alexandra, I had to go and talk to her clients, either intended clients, people who were thinking about working with her or who fit into her market but weren't working with her yet, as well as people who had chosen to work with her. And this is where you can really get that feedback and insight of like, oh, that's what drew you in. That's what felt different about what I say. That's what felt different about my approach. So the answers are there, and if you're willing to give it, trust it, the process, give yourself some time to think about it, and go and get that input and feedback, you will uncover the thing that people really respond to.
Yeah, well said. Let's share how they could get access to that resource to help them find their 3 Rs, because I think
Mhm.
this is a good point to slide that in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a worksheet. I love creating frameworks that make these things as frictionless as possible and guide people through the thinking to arrive at the thing. And so I've put together a worksheet for 3R messaging that you can go through. And, we didn't get a chance to, there's so much to dig into here. We didn't, only so much time, but it goes into resonance, it goes into relevance, it goes into remarkability. It gives you some questions and ways to think about it. And I've even got a little video that can help you walk along with it as well and make it very actionable for you, so that by the time you're done with this, you'll have arrived at least at a usable first draft of your 3Rs, which you can start incorporating into your messaging and your sales and your offer. So you can get that by going to jasonvo.download. So that's a web address, jasonvo.download. And that'll take you right to a page where you can opt in and get that framework, as well as a couple of my other favorite frameworks that I love giving people to get them unstuck with those different areas we talked about way at the beginning of our conversation.
Love it. I love a good framework. It's like it makes everything so much easier. And instead of like trying to test everything and figure it out on your own and put a bunch of pieces together that maybe this isn't your superpower anyway, it just makes it super simple. So we will link that
Yeah.
up in the show notes if you got that wrong or didn't write it down quickly, but jasonvo.download.
Yeah.
So, Jason, this is the time in the conversation where I like to kind of take a step back and look at you, the business owner, and help our audience bond with you a little bit more. And I always think it's fun to find out like what you believe the boldest thing you ever did was that's amplified the impact and the income of your business.
Mm. Yeah, there's definitely a few of them, but I mean, the immediate first one that comes to mind is that for 3 years, I was an engineer, was not happy working for somebody else, was looking for a path to strike out, had been researching different avenues, things I might do. And just at one point, I was so fed up and ready to do something else that I took the leap and quit my job. And I was like, I think I'm gonna go do real estate investing, which was, in hindsight, there is a lot of naivete there, but also the breadcrumbs all started from that moment moving forward to where I am right now.
Mm.
And I'm making it sound like it was just a decision I made. It took months of pondering and like writing down, like, what are the things I'm afraid of? Okay, what will I do to solve these? But that bold move, I think back to often when it's time to make other bold moves, and to understand it's like, yeah, you made that decision and you figured it out and you made it work, and here you are. So you clearly can make and manage and move through bold decisions. So that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, I think sometimes the biggest, scariest risk we face and say yes to often has the biggest payoff if we do it when it's aligned, like when it's
Mhm.
really aligned and we're willing to be all in on making it work.
Yeah.
I had a similar one of those. So the best decision I ever made and probably the scariest decision I ever made.
Right. Yeah.
What so looking from today and back towards the beginning when you made that leap of faith and started your own business, the one you're in today, what is one thing you wish you would have done sooner because now you know how impactful it was going to be?
Mm. Well, okay, here's one that comes to mind because you mentioned earlier that I have this networking group, and I
Mhm.
do all this connecting, and that's very gratifying to hear that, because here's the truth is, um I had a very successful business for about 10, 12 years with a top 10 business podcast. It was a education company for beginning entrepreneurs just getting started. It was the first podcast ever about internet marketing and online business. Um, and even though we had all that success, is when it was time to leave that and move on to my next challenge and to things that felt more aligned with where I wanted to go next, I was thinking back to like, well, what did I really not, what are things I could have done better that held my progress back, that would have amplified my success, and I want to do them better this time. And deepening and expanding and maintaining a good network was the one. I was able to get by kind of in being lazy just because I had this like visibility through my podcast. And so, enough people knew who I was, but it, I'm naturally an introvert. It's hard for me. It takes a lot of energy. A lot of networking didn't feel good. And I had to work hard to find a way to make it feel good for me, to leverage what my strengths are as an introvert, my curiosity and, wanting to go deep, not small talk's just not my thing. So I'm like, okay, let me focus on doing that and getting into the rooms where I can be who feels good to me. And now I've got my own networking group, and I love connecting, and people recognize me for that. And so it feels really good to go like, okay, like I fixed that, I improved that, I continue to improve that, because I really feel like that is something that held me back in my early years of being an entrepreneur, and I've seen the huge benefits that it brings to my business now.
Wow, first of all, congratulations, because I know when you're more introverted and maybe you're a little bit more on the shyer side, putting yourself out there in general in networking is challenging. And then being the leader of that, kind of creates a totally different visibility dynamic. And so I know you probably overcame a lot of mindset stuff just to roll that out. But I also what you shared there was a really powerful demonstration of what it's like when you go from being one of the crowd to being someone who's leading that kind of experience for others.
Mm. Yeah.
I feel like that's part of like the relevance and the what we were talking about early, this remarkability factor. When you're somebody in the room, there's value there, but the remarkability emerges when you're the person that's putting those experiences together and leading that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it changes. Yeah, your kind of credibility and authority in the industry. I mean, my referrals go up because people are referring people to my networking group all the time because it's an easy, valuable thing for people to go like, you got to go check out Jason's thing, as opposed to waiting until they know somebody who's like, oh, you're ready for X. Okay, Jason can help you with X. Go hire Jason. Like, people are getting referred into my world much earlier in the process because of that value experience. I call it gravity experience that I offer. That's a whole other topic. We'll have to have a conversation out about it another time. But yeah, it's been a powerful leverage point in my business.
Very, very compelling, intriguing little seed you planted there about the
Mhm.
gravity. I like it. Jason, thank you so much for bringing your wisdom into the space today and connecting with myself and the amplifier community. I love having conversation with people who are so in it for the impact, and the
Mm.
income has followed. And you really are a demonstration of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that kind feedback. And it's just been a pleasure to chat with you. So thank you, Melanie.
Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. Be sure to join us right now in the Amplify Your Authority community at authorityamplifiers.com, and I'll share my 7 proven tips to be a highly paid expert that stands out in a crowded market. Plus, we're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.